Welcome to the Arizona Wildcats podcast with Brad Allis. I'm Mike Luke. You know the drill. Brought to you by DraftKings. You put down $5, you get $150 in free plays as long as you're a new customer. Doesn't matter who wins. Now, I'm an idiot. We had actually started about 3 minutes ago, and then I realized that Brad and I were just talking to each other because I didn't hit the go live button.
That's okay. I'm an idiot. I had the NFL Network on in the background and left the volume up.
But we did have something that was fun to say. First and foremost, joined by one of the dons of the Arizona sports scene. Brad is a modest man. He doesn't want to call himself the boss of all bosses, nor put himself on the commission. Mike Luke puts Brad Allis on the commission right there.
I humbly accept, unless you're going to take me into an empty carpeted room.
Yeah, well, we're not going to do that. But what we are going to talk about is some Arizona basketball preseason rankings, making fun of ASU, a little bit of football. Adia Barnes gets a big commitment. But first, Arizona basketball generally is looked at, if you look at any of the rankings, somewhere between 7 to 15 in the preseason rankings. Okay, there we go. Hello from Litchfield Park. Hello there, Connor. I think that, by the way, Brad, you got a following here. Like we like Tuesdays at 12:30. Tuesdays, good thing to look forward to here. But
I appreciate it, KB, and of course, Sean, bear down and go Cougs.
Okay, so my question is this: is Arizona basketball back to the point now where people or where the national media just kind of looks at it and says Arizona is a brand, it's going to figure itself out? Kind of, back to where it was, during the Miller heyday, during the Lute heyday, where, yes, you lost a lot of guys, but you also look at it and figure that you're going to be able to figure some things out.
I think it's simple basketball math. I think some of that is there. I think one reason Arizona wasn't ranked last year is no one knew what Tommy Lloyd could do.
Right.
I think the other thing is you didn't know how good some of these guys actually were.
Right.
Now, here's what you do. Without any other change, you had a team that made a legitimate play for the number one overall seed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you lost your best scorer, and yes, you lost a legit, for college parlance, borderline All-American big man.
A defensive changing big man.
And you lost a key role player.
Right.
But you return everyone else of note.
Right.
You bring in, at worst, let's assume they don't add another single player, which we know is not going to happen, a borderline five-star big man who, again, is not going to replace Koloko. But if you're looking 1 to 3, 1 to 4 of your bigs, you might be better.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Tubelis will be better than last year. Ballo will be better than last year. And I would guess that Anderson will be better than Ballo was at the beginning of the year. Very different players. You get the full year of Pelle Larsson, who ended up rounding into being the sixth man of the year. And everyone else you expect to take a jump, a leap. Now, are you going to miss Ben Mathurin? Of course you are. But when you are in position to replace him with, assuming they get Dallin Terry back, with a better version of Dallin Terry and with an improved version of Adama Ball, you start doing the math and you're like, yeah, it feels like 7 to 15 to me. Feels like a 3 to 5 seed. Now, we don't know what else is going to happen in the transfer portal. We don't know about reclassifying. We don't know about European big men, European swing players. There could, for all we know, there's a Canadian out there who wants to come and be the next bid. We don't know. But if this team gets no other players, Shane Noel, sorry, Shane, you don't matter in this equation.
Right.
You're looking at a team that should be, no worse than a 5 seed.
Right. Now, Azuolas Tubelis, let's talk about him because he's kind of gotten lost in everything here. People talking about Dallin Terry, all the moves, who you're bringing in. It's easy to forget because of the meltdown he had in the NCAA tournament, but it's easy to forget that Azuolas Tubelis, when he's playing well, is a bad boy. I mean, this is a guy that can put up 17 and 8, and quite frankly, those are kind of the numbers that I expect next year. So you look at this Arizona roster, and yes, Dallin Terry to me will be the most important player, but Azuolas Tubelis is going to be the one that I would expect to be the leading scorer. And I think a lot of people are forgetting just how good he can be and how good he has been at times during his career.
What I think happens, I think he had a combination of he kind of crumbled at the end. B, he dealt with some injuries.
Mm-hmm.
And C, I think we just got so excited about how good Koloko got and, frankly, how good Omar Ballo got by the end of the year that we forget because Tubelis is not – he's not sexy as a big man. He doesn't block shots into the third row. He doesn't drain three-pointers. He's a, for lack of a better word, kind of a boring player. He's putbacks. He's up and unders. Occasionally he'll drive the lane. But
he's got a little bit of that. He's got a little bit of that Michael Wright in him. Not necessarily. They're both lefties, but there's nothing really sexy about it.
No,
but you're going to get right.
It's fairly, again, I think a comparison was, and it's ironic because how his NBA career came, but Channing Frye.
Mm-hmm.
You blink and he's at 12 and 10.
Right. Exactly.
Because he didn't shoot three-pointers in college. I mean, he made a living on the perimeter of the NBA. He was just a putback guy. You feed him down low. He had some post moves. It's not exciting, but next thing you know, you got a double-double, or you got 12 and 8, or you got 17 and 8. And that's what Tubelis is. And I think, when we were talking about this team at probably around this exact same time last year, if not a few months later, who do we think were the two best players on the team? Tubelis and Mathurin. And I think you could actually make the argument that probably
Tubelis was maybe the best of the two.
If you take the season as a whole, Tubelis and Mathurin were probably the best, at least offensive players. The problem is, he had the injury, which set him back for a few weeks. And then whatever happened, whether it was a re-aggravation, whether it was just hit the wall, whether it's just bad matchups, maybe just head wasn't in it. We don't know about what's going on in their private lives either. As silly as it sounds, you guys have broken up with girlfriends and gone into a 2-week slump.
And I'm sure with as long as Brad Allis has been around, Brad probably knows of some specific examples.
I can think of some that have even chased guys out of the program. But, I happen to know that guys get, I don't think I speak out of turn. Ricky Anderson went into a little bit of slump his senior year, and Gardner and Walton claimed it was because he got a new girlfriend. Right. And he was just, instead of taking 150 shots after practice, it was 145, but that was enough to, mess up his rhythm. So we don't know. And again, I don't want to speculate. For all I know, again, high ankle sprains that don't heal right, maybe just had some bad games. But the fact is, I will speculate. He's a good player. He's a very good player. And I expect him to be a very good player. And maybe if he can use a little of this as motivation, a little chip on his shoulder, Tommy accidentally leaves the play of him, messing up the fast break. And that motivates him. Great, because I'm expecting him to be, one of the 2 or 3 best players on this team. And there's a chance he could be an all Pac-12 first team guy.
Well, and look at the front court for Arizona basketball next year. Now, there are some questions about the back court. We're going to get to that here in a little bit. But Arizona's front court right now, let's just assume, obviously, for sake of argument, that Dalen Terry's back. I believe he's going to be back. I think William believes he'll be back. So you've got Dalen Terry, Azuolas Tubelis, and a combination at that 5 spot of an Umar Ballo and possibly a impactful big man from overseas. That's as good as there is in the conference there, Brad. No matter who UCLA has, I've already named 2 guys who should be all conference in Terry and Tubelis, and a guy in Ballo who certainly has a role and a potentially other talented guy. It's as good as there is.
Dylan Anderson would start for how many teams in the Pac-12 next year? 9?
ASU,
8?
right?
He's starting for Washington. He's starting for Washington State. He's starting for Oregon State. He's good. Now he may play 5 minutes a game,
right?
But he's a quad big. We don't know what the kid from is it Croatia or Serbia? But he's a 6'9" small forward. We don't know.
Philip Borov Cannon. Get used to the name.
Yeah, I haven't hit my pronunciation guide yet. But he's a 6'9" wing player who may or may not play. Can Ballo swing out to the 3? A ball, excuse me. So yeah, you have bodies, but if you just look at the 3, let's assume worst case scenario, Tubelis, Ballo, Terry.
Mm-hmm. It did. That's not bad.
Who maybe when the smoke clears, Oregon might have a better front court, but that's probably about it in the past.
You know what it feels like? It feels like a little bit of a little bit, not a ton, a little bit. It feels a little bit like that kind of that 95-96 front court a little bit, where you got Ben Davis, you got JB, up there. You kind of know what you got right there. Small forward obviously isn't as good as Dalen Terry, but there's a little bit of that going on, and that team turned out to be really good. Granted, there was more talent in the backcourt that I think that this team is bringing back. And let's get
but
to
I would
the
argue you have more, and no slight to those guys. You got more talent in the front court.
No doubt. I would agree with that.
When you got the two combined, no, apologies to JB and Davis might be better than those two guys, but no, you've got. I mean, again, that's two quality starters. And they're tough matchups,
right?
Because they're big, physical. I mean, you're now dealing with third-year player Tubelis, fourth year in college for Ballo.
Mm-hmm. And a Ballo too that we need to talk about here that could have a. Think about it this way. I didn't expect anything from him coming in. I really didn't. I thought that this was maybe just a guy, give you a few minutes, go, elbow a couple guys in the back and get him out of there. There were games when he was maybe the best big man on the court. I mean, you think back to the Pac-12 title game where he had 5 blocks and 7 rebounds, 8 points. I mean, there were times when he was out there where he was an impactful player. And I think people kind of forget that.
Yeah, and again, look at how far he came from that first game in mid-November until the NCAA tournament,
right?
Where he was a totally different guy. And again, there are going to be games where the other teams are not going to have anyone physically capable of matching up. Because Tubelis is a big, strong kid too. We forget again because he doesn't bully ball. He doesn't really throw down. He's a layup guy. He's a 12-foot jumper guy. But he's a big, strong kid too. And, you're going to get some of these 6'7", 6'5" front lines that no matter how athletic and how much they try to run around, they're just going to get destroyed on the glass, get destroyed with pitbacks. You're going to be able to go, and Tommy Lloyd showed that he really likes sometimes when getting fronted, trying to go over the top of the defense. And these guys are going to have some games where they feast. Now, there'll be some other games where they're going to be athletically, I assume at some point USC will have 2 6'9" mobile forwards out there.
Block shots,
who will give them some trouble. But most nights Arizona is going to be bigger, taller, and more physical in the front line.
Brad, have I told you about the DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX?
You have.
All right. Well, I'm going to tell you again. Now
you're synonymous with it now.
All right. Here's the deal, and you guys need to get on this. I'm going to pat myself on the back here. When I told you all about the Miami Heat, they were at plus 1,200 to win it all. Now they're down to plus 550. Now you might be saying, man, I thought Mike was an idiot this whole time. I still think he is an idiot, but I want to put some money down on it now just because it's getting better. DraftKings Sportsbook app. You put down $5, you get $150 in free plays. New customers only. Eligibility restrictions apply. Gambling problem, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. All right, Brad. Thought I did a good job right there with that one.
I think that was excellent.
Okay. Now, let's
credit you for the Miami Heat because I've been paying attention to them mostly to just see how wrong you were. And I'm like, oh, man, Mike knows some stuff.
They're actually good.
Yeah.
Now,
they're getting Philly without Embiid for at least, maybe one more game, maybe more.
It doesn't matter how it happens. You just survive in advance.
Hey, that NBA title will not have an asterisk, and your winnings from DraftKings will still spend the same.
So on the perimeter then, my main question, I believe that and we've talked about this quite a bit, but I got a little bit of a different angle. I believe Kerr Kriisa is a better shooter than he showed so far. I think you can tell by the form, by Tommy Lloyd's by the way, Sean Seeley, I agree with you. Suns at 5 against Dallas. By Tommy Lloyd's confidence in what Kerr Kriisa can do, that he can shoot well. Pelle Larsson certainly showed as the season went on that he's a good shooter. I think Dalen Terry is going to be the guy, though, that is going to have the ball in his hands a lot, though, because I'm not sure that not either one of those guys can create in the manner in which Dalen is able to. Would you look for Dalen to maybe be kind of not a full-time point, obviously, but certainly a little bit in that point forward role?
Yeah, and I think for a couple of reasons. One, it's best for this team. Mm-hmm. 2, it's best for his draft stock.
Right.
He is going to, barring just an absolute explosion in offensive game, he's going to play in the NBA as a dual-purpose player, as a 3-and-D, modern wing, And as a secondary ball handler, backup point guard, or at least when you bring the backup point guard on the court, he helps him out. Kind of when you play, for a Suns thing, when you bring Campaign out and you have Booker out there with him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's his role. So the more he can showcase his ability to not only create for himself, but create for others is going to help his draft stock. And when he goes from a fringe, well, frankly, in a 24-month span, from a guy who was, the 8th man on Miller's last team to a lottery pick, guess who wins? Tommy Lloyd. Because you're saying, look, he's going to get a lottery pick this year. And then granted, Miller recruited him, but, Ben Matherin's not the same player last year that he was under Miller. And again, some of that's natural development. This is not a hate on Sean Miller. I'm not a Sean Miller hater, but I'm a Tommy Lloyd fan.
You're a Tommy Lloyd enthusiast.
Yes. So all that benefits the team and Dallin Terry. And I think we've seen that the way Tommy Lloyd has constructed this team with both what he inherited and what he brought in, he wants, for lack of a better word, 3 combo guards on the floor whenever possible.
Right.
I mean, Pelle Larsson is, in essence, while he's a 2-guard, he's a 2-guard who can handle the ball, create some offense. Adama Ball has the background in playing some point guard in Europe, as well as being, he's a guy who might be able to play 3 positions for Arizona, frankly. Justin Kier was a combo guard. Most of the guys who their name has been attached to in the portal have been combo guards. So, and again, a lot of that's the European style too. Let's not forget that, in Europe, everyone ball handles way more than they necessarily do in the American college game. But that's what he wants. So, yeah, the Dallin Terry happens to be a perfect example of that. And again, it benefits him and the team to be a guy who, in crunch time has the ball in his hands, that he can create his own shot. He can drive and dish. But then when Kirk Reese is having one of those games where he's in the flow, you just step back and, knock down some corner threes.
All right. So Brad, I want to ask you, we're just transition over to football here real quickly. Arizona's looking to follow up this 2022 recruiting class with another great one right there. And here's the question I have. Jedd Fisch is certainly shown that he's going to have everybody out there recruiting. They're going to show everything. At what point do you need to start winning games to be able to tell kids, okay, it's more than just a vision, it's an actuality on the field? Does that need to happen this year? And if so, is there a magic number for that?
I think more so this year, what you need to do is you need to show a level of competence, a level of competition that was missing last year. And frankly, that what you're selling is coming true.
Right.
So if you said, look, we're going to get the tight end involved and Burnett's not making catches, then you're going to have trouble with the next tight end.
Right.
If you say we're going to be whatever you're promising in the offense, we're going to be a pro style offense and we're going to have our quarterback, ready to play in the NFL. And suddenly people are putting Jaden DeLara in mock drafts, even if it's the 2024 mock draft, then you're selling that. Right. You show that you're getting the most out of these young guys, that the young guys who get their opportunity are ready to play. You just have to show whatever you've been selling is coming true. And that doesn't necessarily mean you have to win 6 or 7 football games. It might mean winning 3, but, giving Mississippi State a scare. Going into the fourth quarter, and that's what they sold this year. Everyone, I think, and rightfully so, is focused on that NAU loss. The recruits weren't looking at that. The recruits were looking at the Oregon game.
Right.
Recruits are looking at the UCLA game. Recruits are looking at the Utah game and going, oh, yeah, this team's close.
Right.
And what you're selling, oh, by the way, Scottsdale Saguaro linebacker or defensive back, you would have won the Utah game for us.
Right. And that's what you can sell.
Yeah. So, and that's what you have to do now. And now you're saying, look at how we developed this guy. Look how we're developing that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the guys who go to the same school. So if you played against, I not so much a T-Mac, but let's say you played against Jacob Manu and suddenly he's in the rotation and you're like, man, Manu is good now, but he's playing Pac-12 football.
Right.
Great. Or, you're from you're from Chandler or Hamilton. You're seeing some of your, your teammates, and wow, look at how much stronger he got. Look how good he looks.
Right.
And he comes back and goes, "Oh, it's a blast, man. These coaches are great." That's what you're selling.
Right.
Now the next year, you probably have to be bowling in year 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now that could be the last bowl slot for the Pac-12. Because I think this is realistically a 3. This has to be probably a 4-year build, 5-year build. I mean, just look. Arizona not only didn't have a player drafted, they've only got 2 who signed free agent deals and 1 other getting a tryout.
Right.
2 of those were walk-ons.
Right.
It's Barry. I don't think Haversack was a recruited.
I don't believe he was either.
And if he was, but Pandy is, he's got a tryout, but I mean, Berryhill's the only one who has really, I think, a shot of making a team.
Right.
Then that just shows you the lack of talent that Arizona had when, again, they couldn't even get 4 or 5 guys.
Right.
Free agent deals.
Mm.
I mean, Rich Rod did that routinely.
Right. But so like I thought Jed Fish put out something interesting, and I like Jed Fish doing this. He set out when Arizona was shut out of the draft for the 5th time in 10 years, which by the way is amazing when you think about it. 200 and something 30 guys are drafted and you don't get one out of 50% of the time the last decade. Jed Fish said never again. So you look at this roster now, and my guy KB Thiel on there thinks that Jacob Cowing is going to be a draft pick next year. I would imagine somebody's going to get drafted from this year's team next year.
You look at I think there's a few guys. You can look at Jason Harris or Jalen Harris as a guy who potentially could get drafted. A couple of the receivers maybe. Realistically, we're 2 or 3 years away from impact draft, but you have to start getting guys drafted. You have to start getting guys into. I mean, as bad as it is, and it's not going to help them. I mean, ASU had 5, 6 guys drafted, and they were mediocre last year.
Right.
I think the best example is look at Utah. 1st round linebacker. I think they had a 3rd round defensive tackle. They don't recruit a bunch of 5-star guys. I don't know. I don't remember anyone talking up Devin Lloyd out of high school.
Right.
But that's the way to do it. And that's the way Arizona has to do it. And again, the bigger, I think, indictment will be if the guys who look like slam dunk draft picks, T-Mac, Burnett,
right.
A few of these guys aren't drafted. Then you start worrying. But you have to start getting some of those names called. You have to start seeing those guys on Sundays because that is important. Because right now, if you're the 3rd string whatever at Georgia, you think you're getting drafted.
For sure.
And rightfully so.
Was Dick Tomey able to sell? Because Dick Tomey actually put quite a few guys into the NFL. Was he able to sell that on the recruiting trail, and was it effective?
I think so, but I don't think it was as important as it is today.
Right.
Because we just didn't know as much. I mean, again, I did cover recruiting back then, but there was no online service.
Right.
We used to get one of 3 things. One, there was Super Prep magazine, some of those things, and you looked up and you just started making phone calls. But I'm not sure today. You look at some of the guys he pulled out of the JUCOs, Molitalos. Those guys would have been much more well known now. Even Trung candidate wouldn't have been a secret because his team was like 2-8 because he would have gone to a combine.
Brad, I'm going to put you in charge of being the ASU athletic director here in just a second. But again, got to pay the bills. DraftKings Sportsbook app, code word PHNX. You put in $5, get $150 in free plays. If you're a new customer, NBA games are going on right now. Hop on. This is a great deal. All right. ASU has essentially lost pretty much everybody. And you look at it, and these are some guys that are going, and some of these guys are good. They're going to big time schools. They're going to Ohio State. They're going to LSU. They're going to Florida State. They're going to USC. What do you do if you are Ray Anderson or maybe even the president right there? Because the way you're hemorrhaging talent and not acquiring any talent, things aren't going to get better. Things are only going to get worse. Do you just ride with Herm until the sanctions come down?
I would have asked Herm nicely to retire about 3 months ago.
Right.
Burnout. You know what? I miss ESPN. I miss Teddy at ESPN. The Lord has spoken to me. He would like me to go and do more charitable work. College football's the landscape with the NIL and whatever. Just,
right.
Bow out gracefully, even though we know he's being fired. I'm assuming I'm ASU athletic director who's trying to win and not trying to put another plant. Because if not, Keith Smith's my new head coach.
What do you think?
I'm taking the program. But I'll tell you what I do. And I think I've mentioned this on the show. I go hire Kenny Dillingham.
Mm-hmm.
He has ties to Phoenix. He is young. He's hungry. And I say, you got 7.
Right.
7 years. And then I tell him we got to figure out a gimmick. Because we're not gonna and I don't know what that gimmick is. Is that only recruiting? Because if you look at the mock drafts, if you recruited the top guys in Arizona, you got 2 first-round draft picks in Bijan and Ringo.
Mm-hmm.
They're both projected top 15 in one of the mock drafts. And maybe it's JUCO, maybe it's I don't know what it is, but you just say Kenny, you got 5 to 7 guaranteed years because it's going to take a few years to dig out of this. Unless I think I think he is a rising star. I think he's kind of I think he's going to be a love it or hate it kind of guy because there's some stuff some of the getting in the chats of opposing teams and stuff like that. But that would be what I would do. And
do you believe
hire a young staff? I want maybe like 2 coaches over 45. I want a lot of diversity on your staff. I want Polynesian coaches. I want African American coaches. I want Latino coaches. And let's go do it. And let's go be patient and try to rebuild.
Brad, do you give any credence to the rumors that it really picked up steam after a while that Antonio Pierce this entire time was a plant in the ASU football program, brought in to bring down ASU football, and that Bobby Wade was brought in basically as his successor to the organization? Any credence to these rumors?
I'd believe the Wade one more than I would Pierce just because of how strained Pierce's relationship was. But personally, I would not be shocked if we did not find out we had a double secret agent.
Oh, I was going to say a counter. What is that? A double secret agent.
Someone brought in Greg Byrne to Arizona, who did some really good things and some really bad things, and we gave them Antonio Pierce, Bobby Wade, and who knows who else.
So you don't dismiss the possibility that these were plants?
I love sports conspiracy theories, so I'll live with that one. Yeah.
All right, now.
And how about that? Herm might be a plant because he's best friends with Teddy.
Brad, this is preaching to the choir. Scott, you need to start putting this out there right now. Start quoting William on all of this right here. All right, before we sign off.
And yes, Michael Jordan was suspended for 18 months for gambling. And yes, the envelope was frozen. And yes, the draft lottery's rigged. Yeah, all of those.
All right, now. Everybody was concerned about Adia Barnes, and she's losing a bunch. I know you weren't. That's why I'm gonna put it out there. Adia Barnes, everybody's concerned that she's losing. She lost 10 players or whatever, neglecting the fact that these 10 players probably weren't going to play and that they were recruited over. Adia Barnes seemed very comfortable with the way that her roster was going to be. And by the way, you just nabbed an all-conference player from the Big 12 already from Oklahoma State. There's going to be more where that came from. Shouldn't we be at the point with Adia Barnes where, sure, she's not the greatest coach, God's ever created, but at the same time, it's obvious that she knows what she's doing there, Brad.
Okay. How many players did Lute lose to the transfer portal? Not the transfer portal back, but the transfer.
Right.
Some of them were good.
Mm-hmm. Most of them weren't.
We're okay.
Right.
How many did Sean Miller lose? And how many did Sean Miller really want to keep?
Not many.
I think he wanted Justin Simon. I mean, as good as Barcelo was for BYU, Sean Miller, I don't think shed a tear over his because he didn't work out here.
Right.
People are very critical of Jed Fish because all these players are leaving. Where are they going?
Well, right. If you're going to UL Monroe,
in Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and you've got to pair the roster. And women's college basketball is weird because you have 15 scholarships. Mm-hmm. You can't play 15. You can't play 10. She plays 8 usually. Mm-hmm. So losing, losing a couple high-profile transfers, not ideal. Losing a high-profile recruit, not ideal. But was Vonleh going to play here?
Well, and that's the thing.
Coy Love going to play here?
And the best players too, and this generally is what I go by. If you were losing like if Kate Reese said, "I'm done with this, I'm out." If if Lauren Ware said, "Yeah, thanks, but no thanks, I'm getting out of here." At that point, you're like, maybe there's a little something going on. But again, Brad, I thought you hit the nail on the head. These are players that weren't playing, that probably weren't going to play.
Look at the players who bailed on someone at the end, and granted, some of that was COVID related.
Mm-hmm.
You were going to miss. The linebacker went to Texas Tech. You were going to miss the linebacker who went to West Virginia. I've already forgotten their name.
Tony Fields actually plays in the NFL. Tony Fields.
Yeah.
You are an NFL player from the U of A.
Yeah. A couple of the DBs who love, I think Scotty Young's trying to get latch on right now. Those guys, you're like, oh, those guys are good. Right. But, as much as I thought, Bam looked okay and some, you're not going to miss the fifth string running back who sat out for COVID. You're not going to miss the seventh receiver. We like Drew Dixon because he's a good kid and he's from Tucson, but didn't he go to Covington College or something like that?
Well, that's the thing. And Drew Dixon also at Vasa Fitness too, working out with Kim Aiken. I'm not kidding around. I've seen both of them there many times, admiring me.
And the good news is both of them are in the transfer. Well, actually, no, again, Dixon found a place. I like Dixon. Good, really good kid. And
Sabino kid, an East Side guy. We always rep Arizona East Side kids.
He's not the difference in Arizona gaining a yard in his career. So again, Taylor Chavez seems like a really good kid. Had one really good year at Oregon. I don't think you're going to miss her. And I know some people loved her because she's from Phoenix and she had a really good year at Oregon. But yeah, I'm going to trust Adia Barnes. And frankly, I don't think you'll see Adia carry more than 11 or 12 kids ever again, which is a shame because that's what she's going to do. She's going to give them to the walk-ons, those scholarships. But that's the way she's going to do it. And again, when Kate Reese leaves to go play a super senior season for someone else, when Lauren Ware leaves, when people don't come back for an extra year. I mean, Kate Reese would be playing in the WNBA by most accounts. Right. That's what I would worry
That's
about.
when you start looking at it.
I don't worry about a girl who's going to get replaced, a player who's going to get replaced by a McDonald's All-American leaves.
All right. He is the irreplaceable Brad Alice. I am merely Mike Luke. Everybody on here, you guys are awesome. Sean, KB, Scott, all of you. You guys are the best. If anybody, let's see here. Kahana from Litchfield Park. Thanks again. Appreciate you all. William, appreciate you as always, my man. We'll talk to you next Tuesday.
Sounds good.
All right. He's Brad Alice. I'm merely Mike Luke. You've been listening to the AZ Wildcats podcast.